Welcome to the Global News Podcast on YouTube, where we take a deeper look at one of the stories making the headlines. Hello, I'm Janat Jalil. And today we're looking at why the visit of the Russian president to India and his talks with its Prime Minister matter so much. Well, I'm joined on the line from Delhi by our correspondent Devina Gupta. And Devina, India and Russia have long been close allies going back to Soviet times.
Absolutely. We're talking about a time-tested relationship, and it goes all the way back to the 60s because India has seen Russia come to its aid, especially when it fought wars with its neighbors, China and Pakistan, through the 60s, the 70s, and that's when it got military hardware and equipment from Russia. In fact, when India faced nuclear sanctions for nuclear tests that it carried out in the late 90s, it was Russia that supported India, and that's why this is a relationship that is based on trust. Lots of Indian films, in fact, have seen release in Russia. So there's been a cultural tie over there. There have been people-to-people movement. And in this part of the world, Russia is seen as a friend. And India's current Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he's met Russian President Vladimir Putin in previous occasions, there's been a very warm body language between the two leaders. They've smiled, they've hugged each other. In fact, even today when Mr. Putin landed in India, he was there to receive him personally. They shook hands, they hugged, and even shared a car ride together. And they will be having an informal dinner together before the bilateral meet tomorrow. So this goes on to show the extent to which this relationship is reciprocated from both sides. It has, as I said, stood the test of time, and also Western sanctions, Western pressure. And even as Russia faces an international isolation from the West, it's looking eastwards to countries like India to find those partners in this time.
And you talked there about how Russia is trying to show the West that it's not isolated diplomatically. Why else does this visit to India matter for Vladimir Putin?
So there are three important points here that one needs to consider. Let's take them one by one. First is strategically, India is important because Russia has been selling military hardware here. It's among India's largest military suppliers. So we're talking fighter jets, defense systems, and these are equipment that it has sold for decades. So India relies heavily on trying to boost its defense forces or even try and find an upgrade for these defense equipment. It has to rely on Russia. So strategically, it's quite important for India's security, and Mr. Putin knows that. The second bit is economically. Now, after the war began in Ukraine, Russia has been selling more and more discounted crude to India. It is now almost 40% of total import that India pays for, and we are talking about billions of dollars here for its oil. India says it needs this oil for its own energy security, while the West has said that it is helping Russia fund its war effort. So the argument stands there. But for Mr. Putin, it's also about ensuring that those dollars keep coming in. The third bit is diplomatic, which we are looking at a time when Russia is facing that diplomatic isolation. It's looking at India and China as its key partners. It has been promoting India also through the role of BRICS, which is a consortium of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which has added new members from the Middle East to try and have that counterweight to the Western blocs. For example, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So India plays an important part for Russia to come and to try and build on these anti-West alliance, as many experts call it. So diplomatically, Mr. Putin is looking at India as an ally in this time.
And all these issues matter to Narendra Modi as well, but he's also concerned about these warming ties between Russia and China because historically India has seen Russia as a counterweight to the growing might of China.
Yes, because in this region, we call it a strategy of a necklace of pearl which India is trying to build around its neighbors. So you're talking about Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. These are India's neighbors, and we've seen in all these nations there has been quite a bit of a diplomatic upheaval and democratic upheaval, one would say it as well, and economic crisis in their own right in different ways in these nations, where China has come in and supported most of the governments there. They've had a trade relationship that has increased. So India feels that it's being surrounded by China. It wants to counteract on that, this particular string of pearl, which it calls around its region, and Russia is an important part for India over there. But we've seen this also equation change. Now, in 2020, there was India and China. The tensions were at an all-time high. There was also a skirmish at the border that both countries shared, and there were soldiers who were killed in 2020, and that's where India had started boycotting Chinese goods. It had also put sanctions on companies like TikTok, which still stays banned in India. So after that, just earlier this year, Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi was at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Shanghai, his first visit to the country after those 2020 clashes at the border. He met President Xi Jinping there, and also present at the same forum was Russia's President Vladimir Putin. And three leaders over there made sure that they were smiling for the cameras. They had a brief discussion at that podium, and they were seen walking together. So intentionally, India was sending a signal that it's ready to move on. It can't choose its neighbor, but it can choose how to work with them. And it's hoping for that reciprocity from China with Russia's support.
And right now, Russia has a labour shortage. India has the world's largest workforce. So the two countries could mutually benefit each other, with India looking to sell many more goods to Russia in exchange for the Russian oil.
Absolutely, because this is what is crucial for India's government here, because the youth employment is going up in India, and what they're looking at is a large skill pool and a talent pool, one could say, of engineers, of doctors, of technology workers who want to explore better options for work, and Russia seems to be a destination which is opening up for them. Russia has said they need nearly 500,000 workforce to come in, because most of their young men particularly are now engaged in military service with the Ukraine conflict still going on. So today in the business forum where the meetings were being organized, we did hear how businesses were trying to pitch the idea, be it from the education sector or agriculture sector or AI, asking for young Indian workers to come and work with them. And it could be possible in the coming days. There could be this people-to-people exchange, easier processes for that, that Indian workers could see. Whether there would be to the scale of what we see of Indian workers going to countries like the US or the UK, one will have to see.
And another factor for Mr. Modi is US pressure, notably from the Trump administration, because for the past few years, the West has been turning a blind eye, if you like, to India's purchases of discounted Russian oil. But Mr. Trump has come in and he's saying that India is helping Russia to maintain its war chest, and he's slapped really punishing tariffs up to 50% on Indian goods.
That's where India needs to find a balancing act. Now, what India has been saying is that it supports peaceful resolution to the conflict in Ukraine, and it has also said the Russian crude it's purchasing, which has gone up from 2% before the war started to 40% now, it says that it is for its own energy security. It's got the world's most populous nation, about 1 billion plus people, and it needs to look at keeping its inflation low, fuel prices low here, and that's where it would go to the best deal in the market, which is the discounted Russian crude oil. Now, where it wants to have that balance with the US is, it's saying that just earlier we've seen that the US has sanctioned two of Russia's largest oil refineries, which is Rosneft and Lukoil, and what they have said is that Indian oil refineries will not buy from these sanctioned Russian oil refineries. Will that make a difference to the amount of Russian crude coming in India? Will that make US happy? Well, experts are divided on that here in India, because they believe India could easily go to other non-sanctioned sanctioned Russian entities, or they could diversify, go back to their Middle East suppliers. India says it's looking out for its own interest. It has to come, or it is coming at the cost of those 50% tariffs that you talked about, which was slapped on India way back in August. The US said it's not happy that India continues to buy this crude and slapped an additional 25% tariff, totaling to 50%. And businesses here, particularly exporters, are caught in a tight spot because the US continues to be the largest market for them, and they want a middle path. Indian diplomats are currently negotiating a bilateral trade deal with the US counterparts. So this visit of Mr. Putin is also sending a signal that India is not getting pressured with these kind of tactics. India is standing firm. It wants its relationship with Russia to continue. At the same time, it wants the US to realize they are also important. So it's a tough balancing act, either way you look at it.
Devina, thank you. Devina Gupta in Delhi. And if you'd like to hear more international news stories, please check out our Global News podcast from wherever you get your BBC podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If there are any other topics you'd like us to cover, just leave a comment below. But that's it for now from this edition of the Global News podcast on YouTube.